KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all. What? It's KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all.
That's right. I'm back, y'all. That's right. KP's Video News is back. I've been gone for a minute. I'm back to get back in it. And I'm in it to win it. That's right. KP's Video News is back. And I've been on a hiatus there for a while, just trying to take a little time off to try to get my head right. And hey, I'm back. KP Video News, and I'm back. Did you miss me? Yeah, it's KP's Video News, y'all. Hey, I'm just trying to do my thing, man. Trying to do my thing and live up to my expectations. That's all. Hey, it's we got a lot. I got a lot of news to talk about today, and so like I said, I've been gone for a minute, and sometimes you just got to take your time and just chill out, relax, get your head back in the right direction, get your positive energy flowing, and so I got my positive juices flowing here today. So I'm gonna start off with this. This is the 101st anniversary, 101-year anniversary of the Tulsa race massacre. And this Tulsa race massacre took place May 31st through June 1st of 1921, when angry mobs of white residents, some who had been deputized and given weapons by officials, attacked black residents and destroyed homes and businesses of the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and alternatively known as the Black Wall Street. So, the Tulsa race riot, the Black Wall Street massacre, the event is considered one of the single most worst incidents of racial violence in American history. However, I'm going to give you some other stories that I can add on to this after I do this first one. I'm going to show you that actually there was several race riots that went on across the whole entire country. They claim this was the worst, but I don't believe it was. Anyway, the attackers burned and destroyed more than 35 square blocks of the area, and at the time, one of the wealthiest black communities in the United States, as I said, known as the Black Wall Street. More than 800 people were admitted to hospitals, and as many as 6,000 black residents of Tulsa were interned in large facilities, many of them for several days. The Oklahoma Bureau of Vital Statistics officially recorded 36 dead, but a 2001 state commissioner examination of events was able to confirm 39 dead, 26 black and 13 white, based on contemporary autopsy reports and death certificates. However, the commission gave several estimates ranging from 75 to 300 people died in this race massacre. And it began during a Memorial Day weekend, like right now, after 19-year-old Dick Rowland, a black shoe shiner, was accused of assaulting Sarah Page, the then 17-year-old white elevator operator in a nearby Drexel building. He was taken into custody after Rowland was arrested. Rumors that stated he was going to be lynched were spread throughout the city, which he had seen a white man named Roy Belton lynched in previous year. Upon hearing reports that the mob of hundreds of white men had gathered around the jail where Rowland was being held, a group of 75 black men, some of whom were armed, arrived at the jail in order to secure that Rowland would not be lynched. The sheriff persuaded the group to leave the jail, assuring them that he had the situation under control. But most widely reported and corroborated inciting incident occurred as the group of black men left when an elderly white man approached O.B. Mann, a black man, and demanded that he hand over his pistol. Mann refused. The old man attempted to disarm him, and Mann shot him. And then, according to the sheriff's report, all hell broke loose. At the end of the exchange of gunfire, 12 people were dead, 10 white and 2 black. Subsequently, the group reportedly fled back into Greenwood, shooting as they went as they went back. Alternatively, another eyewitness account contends that the shooting began down the street from the courthouse when the black business owners came to the defense of the lone black man being attacked by a group of 6 white men. It's possible the eyewitnesses simply didn't recognize the incident as being part of a rolling gunfight already underway. In either case, as news of violence spread throughout the city, mob violence exploded. White rioters invaded Greenwood that night and the next morning, killing men and burning and looting stores and homes. Around noon on June 1st, the Oklahoma National Guard imposed martial law, ending the massacre. About 10,000 black people were left homeless, and property damage estimated to be about $1.5 million in real estate and about $75,000 in personal property, equivalent to today's amount of $34 million. Many survivors left Tulsa, while black and white residents who stayed in the city largely kept silent about the terror, violence, and resulting losses for decades. The massacre was largely omitted from state, local, and national history. In 1996, 75 years after the massacre, a bipartisan group of state legislators authored the formation of the Oklahoma Commission to study the Tulsa race riot of 1921, and the commission's final report was published in 2001. States that the city had conspired with the mob of white citizens against the black citizens. It recommended a program of reparations to survivors and their descendants. The state passed legislation to establish scholarships for the descendants of survivors, encouraging the economic development of Greenwood, and develop a park in memory of the victims of the massacre in Tulsa. The park was dedicated in 2010. Schools in Oklahoma have been required to teach students about the massacre since 2002. But in 2020, the massacre officially became part of the school's Oklahoma State school curriculum. And telling you, man, so the background, like I said, it was racially and socially tense situation. It was a tense situation that jumped off. And believe it or not, the lady that turns out there was a girl at that particular time, what she eventually ended up doing when she became old and ill and almost getting ready to die, she gave a deathbed confession and stated that the so-called sexual assault, never happened in the first place. It never, ever happened. So like I said, she, on her deathbed confession, she confessed that the man never touched her. The guy never touched her. And so I'm telling you, man, all this madness and all this foolishness that happened because of a rumor, just a straight out rumor, man. It never happened. So this was the rumor. The rumor was the 19-year-old Dick Rawlins, a black shoe shiner, was employed at the Main Street Shine Parlor, entered the only elevator in the nearby Drexel building, and in order to use the top floor colored restroom. We had to go all the way to the top floor to get to the colored restroom in this particular building, which his employer had arranged for use by black employees. There, he encountered Sarah Page, the then 17-year-old white elevator operator who was on duty. And Dick Rowland and Sarah Page knew each other and has long been a matter of speculation. The two likely knew each other, and at least in sight, because he's been working in the building all this time, and she's been there too. So they had seen each other before. And he had regularly ridden the elevator to get to this restroom. Others have speculated that the pair might have been interracial lovers and a dangerous, perhaps and deadly contemporary taboo. A clerk at Renberg's, a clothing store on the first floor of the Drexel, heard what sounded like a woman scream and saw a young black man rushing from the building. The clerk went to the elevator and found Paige in a distraught state, thinking that she had been sexually assaulted. He summoned the authorities, apart from clerk's interpretation that Rowland had attempted to rape Paige. Many explanations have been given for the incident, with the most common explanation is that Dick Rowland tripped as he got into the elevator, and when he tried to catch his fall, he grabbed the arm of Sarah Page, who then screamed. Others suggested that Rowland and Page had a lover's quarrel. And wow. So in 2001, Oklahoma Commission final report notes that it was unusual for both Rowland and Page to be working downtown on Memorial Day anyway, when most stores and businesses were closed. But it's also speculated that Rowland was there because since the Shine Parlor he worked at may have been open and to draw in some parade traffic. So while Page had been required to work in order to transport Drexel building employees and their families to choice parade viewing spots on the building's upper floors. They had just had a brief investigation, and although the police questioned Page, no written account of her statement has ever been found. But apparently, she told police that Rowland grabbed her arm and nothing more, and would not press charges. However, the police determined that what happened between the two teenagers was something less than an assault. The authorities conducted a low-key investigation rather than launching a manhunt for her alleged assailant. Regardless of whether or not the assault occurred, Rowland had a reason to be fearful. African-American men accused of raping white women were often prime targets of lynch mobs. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Rowland fled to his mother's house in the Greenwood neighborhood. So on the morning of the incident, Henry Carmichael, a white detective, and Henry Pack, a black patrolman, located Rowland on Greenwood Avenue and detained him. So he was detained, and the rest of that is all history, man. The lynch mob came there trying to get him. They wanted to string him up for something that didn't even happen. It didn't even happen the way they tried to say it happened. And so here's what I'm going to tell you now. I'm going to tell you about the Red Summer. This is the other story I was telling you about. This is Red Summer, and this happened. All these riots happened before the Tulsa race riot. So Red Summer is the period from late winter through early autumn of 1919, during which the white supremacists, terrorism and racial riots took place in more than 3 dozen cities across the United States, as well as one rural county in Arkansas. The term Red Summer was coined by civil rights activist, author James Weldon Johnson, who had been employed as the field secretary of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, since 1916. And in 1919, he organized peaceful protests against the racial violence which had occurred that summer. In most incidents, attacks consisted of white on black violence. In most instances, attacks consisted of white on black violence. However, numerous African Americans also fought back, notably in the Chicago and Washington, D.C., which resulted in 38 and 15 deaths, respectively, along with even more injuries and extensive property damage in Chicago. Still, the highest number of fatalities occurred in the rural area around Elaine, Arkansas, where an estimated 100 to 240 black people and 5 white people were killed. So, see, they lied, just like I said. Elaine, Arkansas. An estimated 100 to 240 black people and 5 white people were killed as an event known as the Elaine Massacre. That's Elaine, Arkansas. And this happened in 1919. So as anti-black riots developed from a variety of post-World War I social tensions. And let me comment on this sidebar. After World War I, there was a thing that was going on in the United States when black troops returned back from World War I. This is when you had a lot of lynching going on in the South, and this is something that the United States Army and the government don't talk about. They don't talk about the military, the veterans, the black veterans that were returning from war that ended up getting lynched by the Ku Klux Klan coming home in their uniforms and attacked. The majority of the lynchings that happened after World War I and after World War II in the South were servicemen, veterans, black veterans returning from war, from World War I and World War II. Anyway, back to the story, and an increased competition in the job housing markets between ethnic Europeans and African Americans, and the time would also be marked by labor unrest, which would certain industrialists use the black people as strike breakers, further inflaming the resentment of the white workers. So they had to think the black guys are taking their jobs. But it was the people that owned the businesses that was like, we trying to keep this business going. And the riots and killings were extensively documented by the press, which was along with the federal government feared socialist and communist influence in the black civil rights movement of the time following the 1917 Bolshevik revolution in Russia. They also feared foreign anarchists who had bombed the homes of businesses and prominent figures and government leaders. And so, racism and the Red Scare. From summer of 1917, violent race riots against blacks due to labor tensions broke out in East St. Louis, Illinois, Houston, Texas, following the war. Rapid demobilization of the military without a plan for absorbing veterans into the job market, and the removal of price controls led to unemployment and inflation that increased competition for jobs. Jobs were difficult for African Americans to get in the South due to racism and segregation. During the first Red Scare of 1919 and 1920, following the 1917 Russian Revolution, the anti-Bolshevik sentiment in the United States quickly followed on the anti-German sentiment arising in the war years. Many politicians and government officials, together with much of the press and the public, feared an imminent attempt to overthrow the U.S. government to create a new regime modeled on the Soviets. So they tried to blame the blacks and Germans and Russians, thinking that they got that same mentality like these people have now, talking about somebody's going to replace them. Nobody's trying to replace you. You already got control over everything. So the early riots, April 13th through July of 1914, July 14th. This is so the Haynes reported from between January 1st and September 14th, 1919, white mobs lynched at least 43 African Americans and 16 hanging, and while others were shot, while 8 men were burned at the stake, and the states were unwilling to interfere or prosecute such mob murders. And so it's just like from April 13th in rural Georgia, a riot of Jenkins County led to 6 deaths. And wow. So and destruction of various properties by arson, including the Carswell Baptist Church and three Masonic lodges in Millen, Georgia, and May 10th in Charleston, South Carolina, resulting in the injury of 5 white and 18 black men, along with the death of 3 others. And that's Charleston, South Carolina. They imposed national. In early July, a white race riot in Longview, Texas, led to the deaths of at least 4 men and destroyed the African American housing district in the town. See, this was before Tulsa. And July 3rd, a local police in Bisbee, Arizona, attacked the 10th U.S. Cavalry. Now, these are the police attacked the 10th U.S. Cavalry, an African American unit known as the Buffalo Soldiers, formed in 1866. They attacked the soldiers, police in Arizona. So the Garfield Park riot on July 14th took place in Garfield Park, Indianapolis, where multiple people, including a 7-year-old girl, were wounded when gunfire broke out. So July 13th through the 23rd. July 19th, Washington, D.C. saw 4 days of mob violence against black individuals and business perpetuated by white men, many of whom in the military and in uniforms of all 3 services, in response to the rumored arrest of a black man of the rape of a white woman. The men rioted, randomly beat black people on the street, and pulled others off streetcars for attacks. When police refused to intervene, the black population fought back, and the city closed saloons and theaters to discourage assemblies. Meanwhile, the 4 white-owned local papers, including the Washington Post, lied for weeks of hysteria, fanning the violence with incendiary headlines, calling it at least one instance of mobilization of a cleanup operation. After the 4 days of police inaction, that's no action at all, President Woodrow Wilson mobilized the National Guard to restore order. When the violence ended, a total of 15 people had died, 10 white, including 2 police officers and 5 black people. 50 people were seriously wounded, and another 100 less severely wounded. July 21st, in Norfolk, Virginia, a white mob attacked a homecoming celebration of African American veterans of World War I. At least 6 people were shot, and the local police called in the Marines and the Navy personnel to restore order. Chicago riots, July 28th, 1919 through August 12th. Beginning on the 27th of July, the Chicago riot marked the greatest massacre of Red Summer, and Chicago's beaches along Lake Michigan were segregated. When Eugene Williams, a black youth, swam into an area, this is in a lake now, not in a beach, swam into an area on the south side customarily used by whites, he was stoned and drowned. Chicago refused to take action against the attackers. Thus, the young black men responded with violence lasting 13 days with white mobs led by ethnic Irish. White mobs destroyed hundreds of mostly black homes and businesses on the south side of Chicago, and the state of Illinois called in the militia force of 7 regiments, 7,000 men to restore order. And the resulting casualties of the riots included 38 fatalities, 23 blacks, 15 whites, 527 injured, and over 1,000 black families left homeless. So I'm telling you, Tulsa was not the only one. Was not the only one. Mid to late August, August 12th. So where was this one at? In their national convention, the Northeastern Federation of Colored Women's Club denounced the rioting and burning of Negroes' homes, asking President Woodrow Wilson to use every means within his power to stop the rioting in Chicago. At the end of August, NAACP protested again to the White House, noting the attack on the organization's secretary in Austin, Texas, the previous week. Their telegram read, the National Association of Advancement of Colored People respectfully inquires how long the federal government under your administration intends to tolerate anarchy in the United States. So fast forward to August 30th, 30th and the 31st, Knoxville, Tennessee. A riot broke out after the arrest of a suspect on suspicion of murdering a white woman. Searching for the prisoner, a lynch mob stormed the county jail, where they liberated 6 white prisoners, including the suspected murderers. And the mob attacked the African American Business District, where they fought against the district's black business owners, leaving at least 7 dead and wounded more than 20 people. He got September 28th through the 29th, Omaha, Nebraska. Another riot erupted of a mob of over 10,000 ethnic whites from South Omaha attacked and burned the county courthouse to force the release of a black prisoner accused of raping a white woman. The mob lynched the suspect, Will Brown, hanging him and burning his body. The group then spread out, attacking neighborhoods and stores on the north side, destroying property value of more than $1 million. But this was before Tulsa. And then that other one I was telling you about, the Elaine massacre. This happened on September 30th, and went through November, and a massacre broke out against blacks in Elaine County, Arkansas, being a district and having occurred in the rural South rather than in a city. The event erupted from a resistance of a white minority against the organization of a labor of black sharecroppers. So these black farm owners were fighting against the organization of labor of black sharecroppers. Sharecroppers trying to get the right amount of money they're supposed to get. So along with the fear of socialism, and this is the government fanning that socialism crap, planners oppose such efforts to organize and thus try to disrupt their meetings in the local chapter of Progressive Farmers and Household Union of America. In a confrontation, a white man was fatally shot and another wounded, and the planners formed a militia to arrest African American farmers, and hundreds of whites came from the region. They acted as a mob, attacking black people for over 2 days at random. During the riot, the mob killed an estimated 100 to 237 black people. 5 whites also died. Arkansas governor appointed a committee of 7 composed of prominent local white businessmen to investigate. The committee would conclude that the Sharecroppers Union was a socialist enterprise and established for the purpose of banding Negroes together for the killing of white people. Wow. The report generated such headlines as the following in the Dallas Morning News: Negroes seized in Arkansas riots confessed to widespread plot. They're just lying. Planned massacres of whites today. Several agents of the Justice Department's Bureau of Investigation spent a week investigating participants through speaking to no sharecroppers. They didn't speak to not one. And the Bureau also reviewed documents, filing a total of 9 reports stating that there was no evidence of a conspiracy of the sharecroppers to murder anyone. It's kind of crap that goes on. All this stuff went on, like I said, from January, and actually went all the way through December, January 1919, all the way through December 27th of 1919. The first starting in Bedford County, Tennessee, and the last ending in December 27th in West Virginia. Telling you, man. And that was that's chronic. It was so many. Let me see, how many was it? It was over 60 race riots that year. 60 race riots in the year 1919 in the United States, after the end of World War I, when the black troops were coming back, and they had that white fear that black people were going to be strong enough to fight back. They had been in the military. They had went and fought in the war. this was like the first war that they had been involved in and since the Civil War. And a lot of black guys went over and fought, and they were not going to go back to being boys again. It was not going to happen. So out of that fear, they decided the best thing that they could possibly do was murder them. All right. So I'm going to show you about how they whitewash history now. And this is the story of the overlooked black history of Memorial Day. I'm telling you the truth about Memorial Day here. And nowadays, Memorial Day honors veterans of all wars, but its roots are in America's deadliest conflict, the Civil War, where approximately 620,000 soldiers died. The work of honoring the dead began right away all over the country, and several American towns claim to be the birthplace of the American of Memorial Day. But researchers have traced the earliest annual commemoration to women who laid flowers on the soldiers' graves in the Civil War hospital town of Columbus, Mississippi. But historians like Pulitzer Prize winner David Blight have raised awareness to freed slaves who decorated soldiers' graves a year earlier in 1865 to make sure the story gets told. So according to Blight's 2001 book, Race and Reunion, the Civil War and American Memory, a commemoration organized by freed slaves and some white missionaries took place May 1st, 1865 in Charleston, South Carolina at a former planters racetrack where Confederates held captive Union soldiers during the last year of the war. At least 257 prisoners died and were buried in unmarked graves. So the black residents of Charleston, South Carolina decided to give them a proper burial. In the approximately 10 days leading up to the event, roughly 24 African-American Charlestonians reorganized the graves in rows and built a 10-foot tall white fence around them. An archway overhead spelled out "Martyrs of the Race Course" in black letters. About 10,000 people, mostly black residents, participated in the May 1st tribute, according to the coverage back then in the Charleston Daily Courier and the New York Tribune, stating at 9 a.m., about 3,000 black school children paraded around the racetrack holding roses and singing the Union song, John Brown's Body, and were followed by adults, over 7,000 adults representing aid societies for freed black men and women. Black pastors delivered sermons and led attendees in prayer and the singing of spirituals, and there were picnics, about 30 speeches by Union officers, missionaries, and black ministers. Participants sang patriotic songs like "America" and "We Rally Around the Flag," the Star Spangled Banner. In the afternoon, 3 white and black Union regiments marched around the graves and staged a drill. The New York Tribune described the tribute as a procession of friends and mourners of South Carolina and the United States never saw before. The grave sites looked like a mass of flowers, and the breeze wafted with sweet perfume from them, from the flowers, and tears of joy were shed. And the tribute gave birth to an American tradition. Blight wrote in the Race and Reunion. The war was over, and Memorial Day had been founded by black Americans, African Americans, in a ritual of remembrance for the people that died during the Civil War. There's the soldiers that died, the black soldiers that had died. But the origin story, it was told, was not Memorial Day history, and that wasn't the story that many white people wanted to tell. So about 50 years after the war ended, someone of the United Daughters of the Confederacy asked the Ladies Memorial Association of Charleston to confirm that the May 6th tribute occurred and received a reply. Received a reply from them. So, they tried to do what they could to, try to say, was that true? Was that true? 50 years later, they wanted to find out if it was true. It was already a done deal. It was already a done deal 50 years before that. So, the women, that women of the Confederacy, I don't know what because that same group has recently sprouted back up, the United Daughters of the Confederacy. I'm telling you, man, they got some weird stuff going on there. I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene chick might be part of that little, little weird clique of people over there. United Daughters of the Confederacy, trying to keep that Confederate crap going. You guys lost the war. The war's over. Anyway, black people created Memorial Day celebrations to honor the black soldiers that died during the Civil War. Anyway, folks, that was May 1st, 1865 was the first celebration. And okay, folks, so hey, this is your history lesson for the day. This is KP's Video News. I'm back, trying to do what I got to do. You know who it is. KP's Video News, y'all.
KP's Video News.
KP's Video News, y'all.
KP's Video News, y'all.
KP's Video News, y'all.
It's KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all. What? KP's Video
News, y'all. Peace.